Dr. Abdullah bin Muhammad bin Ibrahim al-Sheikh, Chairman Majlis Shura of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Deputy Speakers of Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, and Sri Lanka, delegates from brotherly country of Belgium, Egypt, Iran, Kenya, Kyrgyz Republic, Lebanon, Oman, Syria, the United Kingdom and Scotland, and the United States of America. Honorable parliamentarians, leaders of political parties, jurists, members of the legal fraternity, comrades of the civil society, women activists, non-Muslim community leaders, academia, media person, youth, and students, ladies and gentlemen. I feel overwhelmed as I welcome you all to this all-inclusive and truly representative international constitutional convention to celebrate the golden jubilee of the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The presence of each one of you is indeed a manifestation of your personal allegiance to constitutionalism, democracy, and rule of law through the chosen representative of the people. I am particularly grateful to our Prime Minister, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, for his continued support and personal interest in the month-long celebrations of the 50 years of Constitution. This indeed speaks of his undaunting faith in the supremacy of Parliament, and the entire House joins me in applauding him for his untiring efforts. I am equally grateful to the leadership of my party, the Pakistan People's Party, namely President Asif Ali Zardari and Foreign Minister, Chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, for their unflinching commitment to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Your every step in this direction echoes the sacrifices of the 1973 Constitution, Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and the martyr of democracy, Shahid Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto. My personal gratitude is also due to the able and visionary leadership of Maulana Fazlur Rahman and his party Jamiyat-e-Ulama Islam. Mr. Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui and members of Muttahida Qawmi Movement, Mr. Khalid Magsi and Balochistan Awami Party, Sardar Akhtar Mangal and Balochistan National Party, Chaudhry Shujaat Hussain and Pakistan Muslim League Qaid-e-Azam, Mr. Asfand Jar Wali Khan and Awami National Party, Nawabzada Shahzain Khan Bhugti and Jamhuri Watan Party, Mr. Mohsen Dawar and National Democratic Movement, and independent support of Mr. Aslam Bhutani, Ali Nawaz Shah, and Mr. Ali Wazir for their combined efforts in safeguarding the guiding principles of our Constitution, namely Islam, federalism, and parliamentary democracy. I also recognize Mr. Mahmood Achakzai and Amir Jamaat-e-Islami, and I will be failing in my duties if I do not acknowledge the valuable contributions of our leader of the opposition, Raja Muhammad Riaz, and members of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Grand Democratic Alliance, and Jamaat-e-Islami for their valuable role as effective opposition, ensuring parliamentary accountability and strong check on the government. Each one of you shall be remembered by our history books for your respective role as vanguards of fundamental rights, personal freedoms, and people's supremacy by our Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, over 75 years ago, the Muslims of South Asia united under the leadership of the Quaid-e-Azam to create a homeland, manifesting the free will of the people, a homeland respecting dialogue, diversity, and democracy. It was the Quaid who in 1928, through his famous 14 points, taught us to respect federalism and provincial autonomy. It was the Quaid's vision of Pakistan to be a democracy based upon the Islamic principles of equality, justice, and fair play. And indeed, it was the Quaid who, in his first address to the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan on the 10th of August 1947, declared it the sovereign and supreme body of the state. Sadly, the vision of the great Quaid was lost to personal and petty interest, where democracy was relegated to a club of the privileged few, and the will of the people became hostage to the whims of a dictator. This indeed sums up the sad saga of the failure of the two previous constitutions of 1956 and 1962, and ultimately the tragedy of 1971. And yet, the innate desire of the people of Pakistan for a democratic federal parliamentary state rekindled. They rose from the ashes under the dynamic leadership of Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and succeeded in achieving the first ever consensus constitution in less than 2 years. 10th of April 1973 saw the entire spectrum of our national leadership unanimously penning a constitution which was not a decision of an individual, but a joint resolve of a united federal nation. April 10, 1973 is the culmination of our nation's journey from a dictatorial to a democratic we the people. April 10, 1973, therefore, is the most bright, shining, and historic moment of our national history after 14th August 1947. I seek a moment from all of you to pay our joint homage to that entire 146-member National Assembly of 1973, that historic 26-member Constitution Drafting Committee, and indeed the entire leadership of those troubled times who rose above all interest and gave the nation a united identity as free and equal citizens of an Islamic democratic federal state. I am honored to inform this convention that my secretariat has finally rediscovered the entire record of the proceeding of the 26-member Constitution Drafting Committee. These remained missing from the public eye for 50 years. And now, in order to ensure that it is not lost again to the changing winds. I am ordering this record be declassified, printed to shape a book, and made available to all citizens of Pakistan for research and public knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, of our nation to be masters of their destiny does not end with the passage of 1973 Constitution. It is unfortunate to note that despite this historic achievement, the agent of tyranny kept striking again and again. During the last 5 decades, within the first democratically elected Prime Minister and the founder of the Constitution, Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, was sent to gallows in 1979. Long and dark nights of dictatorship were forced upon us, where either the Constitution was kept in abeyance or tempered to lose its soul and spirit. But what the forces of darkness forgot was the vision and clarity that 1973 Constitution had already given to the people. On the eve of the unanimous passage of this Constitution, Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto had said, and I quote, "This Constitution now belongs to the people. They are the owners and they will defend it." His words proved prophetic, as despite all their mutual political and ideological differences, the people of Pakistan continued their joint struggle for reviving this agreed document. From the days of movement of restoration of democracy of the 80s to the Alliance of Restoration of Democracy, ARD, of 2000, the political parties, civil society, media, labor, women, minorities, and youth joined hands with one voice, restore 1973 Constitution and purge it from the infringement of dictators. While Shahid Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, the first woman Prime Minister of the Muslim world, laid her life in Rawalpindi for this ideal, thrice Prime Minister Muhammad Sharif was forced into successive exiles. The joint voices of the people, however, could not be silenced. President Asif Ali Zardari and indeed the leadership of all truly democratic political parties were thrown behind bars. And yet we courageously cried, LFO, Na Manzoor, down with dictatorship. The dictator was once again defeated. Destiny smiled. Again, an 18th Amendment was brought to the book in 2010. The Constitution was not only restored to the previous glory, but further improved to fulfill the promise of complete provincial autonomy as envisioned by the Quaid-e-Azam and as promised in 1973. Ladies and gentlemen, April 10, 1973 to 210, and now to the year 2023. We have come a long way, and yet our journey for a truly Islamic, democratic, federal Pakistan is not over. The guarantee of 26 fundamental rights, as promised by the Constitution, still seek the light of the day. The pledge of Article 3, binding the state for the gradual elimination of all forms of exploitation to the universal principle, each according to his ability, to each according to his work, remains largely unfulfilled. The assurance of Article 25, calling no discrimination on the basis of sex, desires to be fully delivered, while the guarantee of 25A, compulsory education, awaits our meaningful actions. We have to cover this distance between the promise and our performance. This distance will remain expanding if the democratic leaderships are kept hostage to palace intrigues and midnight assaults. While the narrow populist nationalism drags society to a fascist interpretation of democracy, the institutions are still struggling to imbibe the true spirit of the Constitution as enshrined in its very preamble. Sovereignty belongs to Almighty Allah, and authority to be exercised by the people of Pakistan through their chosen representative. This august House, ladies and gentlemen, is the nucleus of power. It is the author of the Constitution. It is the sole legislative organ. The people's will stems from here, and all institutions must be answerable to this sovereign and supreme body of the people. This is the crux of our Constitution, and this is our only way to an all-inclusive, mutually respecting, diverse, and dialogue-based Pakistan. My Shaheed leader, Benazir Bhutto, used to say, democracy is not a product, it is a continued process. She would often quote Goethe, freedom must be reinvented in every generation. And she would teach us that constitutional democracy is not all about changing a regime through ballot, but creating and strengthening the very building blocks of democracy, namely a vibrant civil society, a free impartial media, a meaningful women's participation, inclusion of diverse voices without the discrimination of class, color, creed, race, and religion, a transparent election system, and an impartial and universally respected judiciary. These are the very building blocks that 1973 Constitution promised, and these are the very building blocks that as representatives of the people we must strive to create in order to make Pakistan the ideal Islamic federal parliamentary democracy. This is what the Qaid dreamed. This is what the framers of the 73 Constitution aspired for, and hence this should be our legacy to the future generation of our nation. As I conclude, I once again thank you all, especially our foreign delegates, and wish them a joyous stay in Pakistan. I thank you all. Pakistan, Paindabad.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.